All right, in this podcast episode, I'm going to be giving you the full walkthrough voicing plan that you need to conquer all of your jazz piano voicings in 2023. Go to jazzpianoschool.com/2023 planning book to get the free planning guide that I'm going to be referring to in this particular voicing lesson. My name is Brendan Lowe, creator and founder of Jazz Piano School. With that being said, let's dive right in.
Voicings. I'm going to do this in a different way, and I'm going to be very intentional about this. Hey, Dunya, good to see you. Thanks for being here. And I'm going to start from the very beginning. Okay, so if you have the planning book pulled up, I'd highly recommend you kind of follow along. You don't have to, but it'll kind of be good to show you what the plan is. So I'm going to start as a very beginner. The first thing we learn on the piano to kind of learn pop in jazz is triads. We need to know triads. And it's so funny because throughout my life, even when I knew a lot of seventh chords and voicings, I wasn't really always sure of my triads. Now, triads can help us a lot when playing rock music. They're really, really useful. Hey, George. Triads are great for gospel. If you put certain triads, this just made me think of gospel sound when I saw George's name. If you put an F major triad over a G, it creates a beautiful gospel sus sound. I mean, it's not just for gospel, obviously it can be used in a lot of ways, but triads are going to be fantastic for you to learn and just really get a hold of, right? In Hey Jude, right, the last kind of jam sequence, I was doing a video on the improvisation mastery course the other day to this sequence, right, and soloing over rock tunes. And so the last ending vamp to Hey Jude, you know, na 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 Hey Jude, right? It's just all triads. So most pop tunes and rock tunes are triads, and it's really good to get a handle of these. These are going to be the first voicings that you want to get a hold of. So as I walk through this, for all of these voicings, there's really a system I use, and I'm going to tell you that system right now. So right hand alone first. Okay, right hand alone. So I would practice my triads. I might sneeze here in a sec. I would practice my triads first, right hand alone. Oh, God, is it coming? Oh, I hate this. You guys can all relate, can't you? All right, so it went away. Great. So C major triad, F major triad, B flat. And I always practice everything, all voicings to the circle of fourths first, because it's going to relate to the way that jazz is structured the most, or pop tunes, like in just harmony in general. Usually things will go from in kind of a circle of fourths fashion in pop and jazz, whereas in classical, to me, a circle of fifths. So C, F, B flat, E flat. So you'd practice this in the circle of fourths. C, F, right hand alone. Okay, so on and so forth. You do no time first and then put a metronome on. Then you do your left hand. And always no time first. No pressure, no metronome or anything. You're just learning the notes, right? You're just going around learning the chords. And you're going to need to be able to play voicings in both hands, right? The next thing you do, then you put a metronome on. Click, 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 until you get really comfortable, I'd say, until you work up to about 120. Then I would do two hands together, both hands. See, like this? And I'm going to practice these triads just like this. Now, for every other voicing I teach you throughout this entire lesson today, this is the system I'd like you to use. I'd like you to use this system throughout 2023 to practice any new voicings or any new level of voicings that you're going to be at and adding into your repertoire, okay? So step number 3 is going to be hands together. Okay, step number 4 is going to be bass note to left hand. So we're going bass note to left hand voicing. Bass note to left hand voicing. Now the reason behind this is because this is going to help your solo piano immensely, because this is a great skill that you're going to need to play solo piano, or even if you're playing with bands or anything like that, you're going to need your left hand to go from a bass note to a voicing in a lot of different facets, just ways, situations, okay? The next thing you're going to want to do is bass note to two hands together. Bass note to two hands together. And up until this point, we're always practicing in the circle of fourths. Now, Once we get to this point here where we've done bass note to 2 hands together, now we can start to apply some kind of different situations, chordal harmonies, besides just the circle of 4. So what I'd recommend is doing 2 things. I'd recommend going up and down the major scale, the C major scale, and the D flat major scale rather. My camera up here being funny? A little bit. So what I'm going to do is take all my triad voicings and I'm going to move them up the C major scale. And what I mean by the C major scale is that each root of the C major scale is going to become my voicing. So the first note of the C major scale is C, so I'm going to play a C major triad. The second note of the C major scale is D, so I'm going to play a D major triad. The third note of the C major scale is E, so I'm going to play an E major triad. And so on. F, G, A, B, C. Okay? Then I would do that for my D flat major triad, scale rather. So the first chord, otherwise we only get these triads, right? We need all the keys, so we need these other triads too. And these are all going to be major, 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 major. So I'm moving up the D flat major scale, and each root, each note, new note of the scale becomes my major triad. Okay? The next thing I would do is 2 things. Okay? And we would do this in the same pattern that I just showed you guys. So the first step would be left hand alone, up the scale. Back down. Kind of hard to see over my mic. Then you do the D flat, then you do your right hand. Now, I don't want you to get overwhelmed. Like, these are the steps to take to learn voicings like the back of your hand, so you never forget them, and you can easily pull them out of your tool bag whenever you want in any tune possible. So essentially, I'm giving you so many different variations, so many different ways, so many different situations to make you uncomfortable. So that way, when tunes do come and you do want to play a tune, you won't be struggling to find that voicing. You'll be ready, you'll be prepared, you're ready to go, okay? Then we do 2 hands. Right? Up and down. Woo. Up and down, so on and so forth. Now the last thing, close to the last thing, is chromaticism. So now, I'm going to go up and down chromatically. Sorry, left hand alone first. Left hand alone first, then your right hand alone. It doesn't really matter. You can do right hand alone first, I guess, and then left hand alone. It doesn't really matter. And then again, don't forget the other step with the bass note. Right? So for the C major scale, I'd go D, E, right? F, G, and then I'd do right hand. Okay? Well, the right hand's not going to play the bass note, so you just add it in, right? So hands together. Just like this. F, G, okay? And then I do that for the D flat major scale, and then we do chromaticism, right? So chromatics. Almost done with this, guys. Chromatics, all the way up and down, okay? And then bass note chromatics here. And then bass note chromatics with 2 hands together. Okay, and obviously with each one of these steps, always, just like I teach in the Improvisation Mastery course, which is coming out January 23rd, the first step is no metronome because you're just learning the notes. And as you're learning the notes, your main goal, your 100% goal is to make sure that you play everything right. Just don't make any mistakes because that's going to set you back. Okay, that's always the first step, no metronome. The second step is to put the metronome on so you can simulate an environment where you'd be playing the exercise of the voicing and you have a little bit of pressure on you because you need that pressure to get better, all right? Just like diamonds. The last step is miscellaneous recognition of the chord and playing it as quickly as you can with either hand. So what I recommend is inside of Jazz Piano School, if you are a member, there's flashcards. If you go to the JPS Lab Tools section, there are flashcards. And what you're going to do to use these flashcards, there's a whole intro video too that I talk about how to use them. You're going to click on a flashcard and it's going to flip a letter like F, right? So it might say major triad. You're going to click on it. It's going to flip F, right? And then you're going to try and play that F major triad as fast as you can. And then you'll click another flashcard and it'll flip and it'll say E. And then you'll play an E major triad. And then you'll click another flashcard, it'll say A flat. Now the great thing about these flashcards is you can use them for so many different types of voicings, right? You can use them for A flat minor 7 chords. So you can say, even if you see an A flat, right? You can think, okay, I'm going to play all my A flat major 7 chords, root position, right? Then you'd be playing all your A flat, not all your A flat major 7 chords, all your major 7 chords, I should say. But anyway, you can use the flashcards inside of Jazz Piano School if you want, or you can make them on your own. I used to have a huge deck of flashcards, like this thick, of all different types of letters, right, and symbols, so that I was practicing my instantaneous recognition of that symbol and the ability for me to play that in different ways, with my left hand, with my right hand, the bass note to voicing, right? And I would test myself and time myself, see how fast I could go through it, okay? That's the very last step, is miscellaneous recognition of chord symbols. Because in tunes, if you can do that, right? If you can instantly recognize random chord symbols where you can just play an E flat minor triad, first inversion, second inversion, right? Or a flat minor 7 rootless. When you get to tunes, they're not going to be that miscellaneous. They're not going to be so random, like in a random order, because there is a structure to harmony. So it's going to be so much easier and you're going to be ready. All right, let's keep moving on here. So that's going to be the practice system I want you to use as I move forward. So as you see in the planning guidebook now, the first step is triads, right? The number 1 in voicings is triads. Now for each one of these, you have different types of inversions. So here's my root position. You would want to learn all of these for your first inversions, your second inversions, and that's it for triads, right? That would be it for your majors, okay? And obviously you want to learn to voice lead these. And there's voice leading exercises in JPS as well. Right? That's going to be really important as well, being able to voice lead. You need your minors, right? So all different types of triads. Your minors, your majors, your majors, your minors, first inversion, second inversion. You're diminished, right? Or your minor flat 5, same as a diminished triad essentially. You're augmented. I have a bug in my throat. Here's my augmented triad, right? And for triads, that's good enough. I mean, you don't really need more triads than that. I don't even think, your sus triad would be 4. 1, 4, 5. This is just a sus triad. And if you do want to kind of get into it, you can do your add 2 triad without the third. Or you can practice this, the add 2 triad. You might see this in pop tunes too sometimes. So it's just a triad with the addition of the D. Oh, I lost the chat here. Let me pull this up real quick. So that's going to be triads. Now on to 7th chords. That's your first building block of voicings. Like if you're a beginner, everything I just showed right there is what you want to work on in 2003, right? And depending upon how fast you move through that could be Q1. So in your planning book, you can work on that for Q1. You can write down what you want. You can write down whether you're working on root position first. If you know your root position, then work on first inversion or second inversion, right? 10, 15 minutes a day. Next is 7th chords. 7th chords. So we need our 7th chords for jazz. There's 3 main types of 7th chords in a major 2-5-1. We're going to have a minor 7th chord. We have our major 7th chord, and we have our dominant 7th chord. Now in a minor 2-5-1, there's essentially only 2 extra types of chords that we're going to want to learn. Our minor 7 flat 5 chords and our minor major chords. Right? Now again, for every type of voicing that I'm showing you right now, the practice system that I just taught you is what the steps you're going to want to take. So let's say you don't know your minor major voicings. You're going to want to go through the circle of fourths. You're going to use the same exact system, right, to go through. It sounds pretty out, right? But that's okay. And then you do your right hand. I love this sound. Really creepy, right? Halloween's past, so we need some more uplifting music. But that would be your minor majors, right? Then you do your bass note to your minor major, bass note to minor major. You go through the same system for new voicings that you want to add into your tool bag. Just follow the same steps every single time, okay? It's very, very simple. It just takes discipline and application, right, of yourself just doing the exercise, doing the work, right? Okay, so we're at seventh chords. Now, obviously, with seventh chords, we need inversions as well. We need to know our inversions. I use lots of inversions. You know, when I'm soloing, let's say I'm soloing over a 2-5-1 in the key of F, I play lots of inversions. I don't really play inversions on a dominant chord that much. I'll usually add extensions, but especially over minors and majors, like I would play a G minor third inversion here. Usually on dominant seventh chords, though, this is too bland for a dominant seventh chord. You literally always need kind of one extension, something to give it a little spice. But for the majors and the minors, you can definitely use inversions all the time, and I do. So if I'm soloing here, right? So I use my inversions here a lot to comp for my solos. Or I might go jump to an inversion here, even root position, first inversion, altered, third inversion, right? So inversions for seventh chords are just as important. And I would argue not as important for dominant seventh chords because, again, they don't come into play that much unless you kind of have some sort of movement where you get C7 going to C7 over E, right? You'd kind of use it in that situation. But anyway, moving on. So you have inversions of your major seventh chords. You're going to do the same thing here, right? First inversion, first inversion, first inversion, first inversion. And then you do that for your minor sevenths. And again, you're always following the same system. So left hand alone, here's my minor seventh first inversion, C minor 7, C minor 7, excuse me, F minor 7, B flat minor 7, right? These are all first inversions. E flat minor 7, okay, A flat. And we're working through this, okay? So we're on step 2 now of the planning book. And if I open up my planning book here, I've gone triads. You need inversions of triads. That's step 1. Step 2 is seventh chord. Step 3 is inversions, what I'm going over right now. Now, voice leading, it should be applied to your triads and your seventh chords. You can argue, and like I've arranged it here so that you're just working on root positions the whole time. So root positions up till step 4, when then you start working on inversions, which is okay. But I would work on inversions with your triads as well. So if you're practicing triads, still work on inversions, okay? So now, inversions of your seventh chords, and then voice leading. So it's not going to be as important with your, I guess it is important for both hands. You want to be able to voice lead through different types of harmonies. So through the circle of fourths, if I was to voice lead through the circle of fourths in all minors, it would be like this. C minor 7, F minor 7, B flat minor 7, E flat. So what I'm doing here is root position to second inversion, to root position, to second inversion, to root position. So you'll find patterns. But you also want to try and voice lead in 2-5-1s as well. So here's my root position, second inversion, root. And then start on first inversion. First inversion, third inversion, first inversion. Do that with both hands. First inversion, third inversion, first, right? First inversion, third inversion, first inversion. That would be in a new key. Then you do your bass note. First inversion, third inversion, first inversion. Then hands together. Right? Lots to do, lots to work on, okay? And again, the more you can kind of get in a routine to doing this, like even 5 minutes a day, just do 5 minutes a day. Just take one inversion through the circle of force, one exercise. Just do your left hand alone through the circle of force For any of the voicings that I'm teaching you that you don't know, just do it 5 minutes a day, and I guarantee over the course of a week or 2 weeks, you'll have crushed that particular voicing in that particular manner. Okay? Now, let's move on. Shells. Okay, so there's lots of seventh chords, obviously. I'm not going through all the seventh chords. We have diminished seventh chords. We have augmented major sevenths. But the most prevalent chords you're going to need are what? Your minor sevenths, your dominant sevenths, your major sevenths, your minor 7 flat 5, and your minor major chord, or your minor 6 chord. This is a C minor 6. It's not written there in the notation, but that's what it should say there. C, E flat, G, triad, minor triad with a 6 on top. It's kind of like an ending to a mystery tune, or opening to a mystery tune as the curtain falls, right? And then or the curtain opens at that point, right? The overture ends or something. All right. Anyway, so shells. We need our shells. Now at this point, we practice our voice leading. We're on step 4. Let me just get this open real quick. I don't want to go into rootless voicings just yet, because there is an important step that only you guys are getting because you're watching this right now that fits between 4 and 5. And that important step is shells. Now, I do have shell voicings at number 8 later on, but I'm going to explain what those are. Those are going to be more upper structure type of voicings. You really want to nail your shells alone for all types of voicings in your left hand and your right hand. So for example, your shells for all minor voicings. Here are my C minor shells, 3rd and 7. Here are my F minor shells, 3rd and 7. Here are my B flat minor shells, E flat minor shells, right? A flat minor shells, D flat minor shells, G flat minor shells, B, E, A, D, G, C. So you really want to get a really good grasp on your shells, because they're going to lead to things like this, right? Now, everything in my left hand that you just heard, that probably sounded pretty good to you, it sounds good to me, was shells. Everything I just played in my left hand through that voicing passage was shells. That's why shells are so important to learn, especially in your left hand. Especially in your left hand. Your left hand's going to be playing lots and lots of shells, okay? So you want to follow the same steps that I showed you, right? Circle of fourths, all your minor chords. Circle of fourths, all your dominants. But again, each step has multiple steps, right? Never forget that. Okay? You don't want to just go circle of fourths, then move to your dominants. You got to do circle of fourths for your minors. You got to do left hand alone, right hand alone, hands together, right? Here's hands together with shells just for my minor sevenths. You always have multiple steps for each type of voicing and each quality of voicing. Remember that. Write that down. It's really important, okay? And then I do bass note to shells, left hand alone. And then bass note to shells, right hand, hands together. And then I'd move on to my dominants, okay? Man, I don't know what's going on here. So then I'd move on to my dominants. And again, for each step, we learn them without the metronome and then with the metronome. Without the metronome and then with the metronome. Okay? Without the metronome and then with the metronome. Always remember that. And here's my dominants. Then I go through my dominants. Here's my dominant shells. Anyway, you get the picture. Shells are really important. Very important to know. Okay, moving on. Rootless voicings. Rootless voicings. So rootless voicings are going to be an entry into jazz extensions, And so many people, let me answer Tom's question because it's a great question. I find when practicing hand together, I am always much slower. Do we need to get that tempo to the same speed as one hand alone? That's a great question, Tom. I would say no, because your hands, it's more for a learning process. Your hands will, I would never play a voicing like this. Like, this isn't exactly a voicing I would play. It's more to learn the structures in your hands so that you never forget them. Like, when you practice hands together, something happens with your brain in recognition of the shape because both hands are playing the same identical shape together in both hands. So it's more of a learning integration system for your brains, your motor function, your hands, your dexterity to memorize the shape of voicings, but I would never play that voicing. Okay, it's just so that you can, it really makes it as most comfortable as possible. So you don't have to work on getting that speed up to like 120. I always say 120 is like the BPM that you want to work these steps up to, right? 4 beats per chord. 2 beats, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or alone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be about, I don't know, 120-ish or even faster. But no, I would say no. So where was I? Rootless voicings. Rootless voicings are going to be the stepping stone, kind of like the entry voicing into everything you're going to need to know for more advanced stuff. Now, there's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of voicings in jazz out there. You have upper structure triads, which a lot of people ask about, right? I'm going to talk about those in a second. You have different voicing, like altered voicings. You have fourth voicings, right? You have two-hand voicings. But rootless voicings are really going to help you get into a lot of extensions and learning areas, okay, that are going to be super, super important. So rootless voicings are really important for you to know. There's 2 structures. Structure 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 of your D minor 7 of a minor 7 voicing. Structure 2, 7, 9, 3, 13. I shouldn't say structure 2. This is structure 1. Yes, John, I'll do that in 1 second. 3, 5, 7, 9. This is structure 1. 7, 9 through 13. 3, 5, 7, 9. Okay, rootless voicings. Here's your structure 2. It's just an inversion. So here your 3rd is on the bottom, and here your 7th is on the bottom. 7, 9, 3, 13. 3, 13, 7, 9. 7, 9, 3, 5. 5. Okay? So again, same process. Left hand alone. Okay? What I'd recommend doing first is through 2-5-1s this time. So I'm going to go through my 2-5-1s in the circle of 4s. That's the key of C. Then I move to the key of F. Then I move to the key of B flat. These should be so comfortable you can drink water and play them at the same time without even thinking. Okay? Then right hand alone. Same thing. All the steps I've taught you. Then hands together. Right? Then bass note. Through the keys, hands together. Okay, then you use the other ways of practicing it as well, up the major scale by keys now, right? By keys. So here's the key of C, then I go to the key of D. Now the key of E. So I'm moving up my major scale by keys now and playing the 2-5-1s, and then I do the D flat major scale. So for both structures, structure 1 and structure 2. John says, can you run through all the shells? Yeah. By the way, for the shells, guys, besides just isolating the shells for your minor 7ths, right, you do want to do 2-5-1s. So do your 2-5-1 shell patterns. Left hand alone, right hand alone, hands together with your bass note. Always with no metronome, then metronome, right? And then in different ways like I just showed you. So do your 2-5-1 patterns, but here are the shells, John. Remember, your shells are going to be 3 and 7. The roots aren't in your shells, so there's no 1. It's just 3 and 7. So here's 3 and 7. Going to 7 and 3, going to 3 and 7. You know, now that I think about it, I didn't demonstrate this. When your right hand should be playing with your left hand bass note in one of the variations too, because that way you can hear the harmony. So besides just your left hand jumping, you can also, which I'd recommend, play your right hand voicings with your left hand bass notes. Because this is a skill set you need to. Man, I'm out of practice. My voice is out of practice. So John, those would be the shells. You want to do your minors. Okay, your minor shells are the 3rd and 7th. Your dominant shells, right? Always 3 and 7, but you're just changing the chord quality of the notes. So here's your dominants. Here's your majors. Right? The shells are the 3rd and 7th of your dominant of your chord, your 7th chords, right? So 3rd and 7th. Here's the root and here's the 5. 1, 3, 5, 7. You're always playing the 3rds and 7ths. Then you can voice lead them. You can voice lead all your majors. You can voice lead all your minors. Right? You can voice lead all your dominants. These are all shells. And you want to do that in both hands, right? Voice leading dominants. I'm just going down by half steps. Really, that's how they begin to voice lead. And a lot of this teaches you what you're going to see too as well. All right. So rootless voicings, both structures. Okay, so we are at, let me see, step 5. Okay, step 6 is isolated rootless voicings. This is going to be, I can't tell you how important this step is either, because so many times in tunes, you're not just going to see 2-5-1s all the time, right? You're going to see a lot of different random voicings. You're very welcome. Yes, jazz, most jazz is written in flat keys. That's why we go C, F, B flat. We start going through the circle of fourths because you're going to see most jazz written in flats. Most classical tunes, I shouldn't say most classical tunes, but classical is more about sharps, I guess. But all the jazz, a lot of jazz is written in flat keys. That's why we do circle of fourths. So, all right. Isolated rootless voicing. So now we want to isolate our minor 7ths. Right? So we're isolating all the minors by themselves outside of the 2-5-1. Minor 7. It's going to say E flat major 7, but there's no root. Right? If I put a C on the bass, that's a C minor 7 rootless voicing. Okay? This is an F minor 7 rootless voicing. Then I'd isolate all my dominants. 3, 13, 7, 9. 3, 13, 7, 9. Now these are so important for soloing. Check it out. Like if I were to play a ballad, for example, this is the tune Ghost of a Chance. I don't stand a ghost of a chance with you. I need to be able to play these voicings. And there's not that many 2-5s. Like clearly there's 2-5s, but it's not always minor, major. Excuse me, it's not always minor, dominant, major, and it's not always a 2-5. So I need to be able to play my C major 7 voicing. I need to be able to go to my D flat 7 voicing with the sharp 11, that G natural added in, to my G minor 7, C 7, F minor 7, B flat 7, E minor 7, diminished. Right? Now check it out. All these string of dominant chords here are E7, E7, A7, excuse me. So E7, A7. I wanted to play an altered chord there. D minor. So you're not always going to see. This is why isolation, practice of your voicings is very, very important. Right? I'm going to go back to that in just a second. So all your dominants, all your minors, all your majors, right? For both structures. This structure too. 7, 9, 3, 5. 7, 9, 3, 5. 7, 9, 3, 5. Right? Up the C major scale. right? That was minor 7. Let's go up the D flat minor scale, or D flat major scale. But again, I'm taking my minor 7th voicing, structure 2, 7, 9, 3, 5. So I'm going to go up my D flat major scale. That would be for all minor 7s, the shape, right? 7, 9, 3, 5. And you do that for each one. Your majors as well. And so this is the process of isolating your rootless voicings, right? And you want to practice these in so many different ways. So let's move on. Okay, we're at now, just by the way, as I'm going through these, you want to say, okay, what do I know? What do I not know? And wherever you fall within the voicing repertoire that I've been showing you, that's where you want to start to fill in your holes, fill in those holes. Because a lot of these will be, it's like a building. It's like a layered building. We're like stacking layers on top of each other. So a lot of these, you know, if you have layers 1, 2, 3, and then you don't have like your rootless voicings isolated, for example, you can't do that. And then you try and stack other layers on top of that, the building's not going to be stable. So you can't keep moving up advancements in your voicings unless you get these layers solid to keep piling on advancements. Because when we start to get into stuff, you know, with your rootless voicings or changing the extension to hit stuff like this, the foundation of this comes from the steps we've done previously. Okay, that's very, very important. Let's keep moving on. So we are at isolated rootless voicings, step number 6. Step number 7, 2-hand voicings. Okay, how do we create 2-hand voicings? John has a great question or observation. I notice you work more on the shape of the voicings rather than trying to learn the notes. It should be both, John. It should be both. So you do want to learn the notes for sure. Looking at the shape and where the intervals are good for recognition of the chord. Like for a minor 7th, rootless voicing, I know there's a half step in the middle. You do want to know the notes. Like you want to know that the 9 here is in between the 2 shells. Like you have your shells, then you have 9 and 5. But the shape of it lets you have a half step in the middle. So that's very important as you start to shift around keys. Because I know I'm always going to have a half step as kind of like a beckoning recognition, like a lighthouse. Like I look for that half step when playing this voicing, because I know it's going to be there every time. Same with this. If I were to play my dominant voicing, I know there's a whole step here. I know I have my shells here. And I know the 13 up here is a half step below the 7. Man, this is annoying. So, it just helps to have that recognition of the voicing. So you do want to know the notes, obviously, as well. And you should be able to spell the notes as well. Like if I said, spell out a B minor 7th voicing, 3, 5, 7, 9. Like what would the notes be? And if you can call them out quickly, like D, F sharp, A, C sharp, you know that voicing like the back of your hand. Right? Now, clearly, you have to kind of picture the voicing in your head, which is completely okay, but you should be able to spell the notes out. You should be able to do it both ways, right? Just like spelling on paper when writing and spelling out in your head. Like, how do you spell the word, piano? When you can write it out on paper and you can spell it out by saying it to someone, Piano. It's the same with the voicing. You should be able to play the voicing. You should also be able to spell it out, B flat, D, E flat, G. Right? And you should be able to know that voicing like the back of your hand. Okay? All right, 2-hand voicings. So there's a couple setups for 2-hand voicings. 2-hand voicings are going to stem from your left hand and your right hand being combined together and splitting shells. So the first structure you're going to want is 1, 7, and 3. 1, 7, and 3. This will start to create 2 hand voicings. Okay? This would be a G minor 2 hand voicing that I'm going to build up off of. The next structure you'd want to learn is 1, 3, and 7. So this would be like a C7, 1, 3, and 7. And then the other structure you're going to want to learn is 1, 7, or 1 and 10 rather, not 1 and 7, 1 and 10, and 7. Right, so to do things like this. Or this. Right? Now, if you can't reach these, that's okay. I can't reach some of this stuff. And in that case, we do this. Bass note, chord. So it's the same structure here, 1, 10, 7, but I'm just going bass note first, and then into the voicing, okay? 3 2-hand voicing structures you're gonna want. So 1, 7, 3, for your minors, dominants, and majors. Here's major, here's dominant, here's minor. Does that make sense? Right? Major, dominant, minor. We want to voice lead these in 2-5-1s or play them in 2-5-1s. When you do 2-5-1s, you want to voice lead. Minor 7, this is the key of C. So through the 2-5-1, 2-5-1. And the variation would be this. 1 and 10 and 7 to 1, 7, and 3. Then I'd go to my next key. Then my next key. We also want to isolate these like I've been talking about. All your minors. 1, 7, 3. 1, 7, 3. 1, 7, 3. You should be able to go around the circle of 4s just in this setup. Then you want to do that for the other setup. 1, 7, 3. Here's our dominants. And then finally, the 1, 10, 7. Right? 1, 10, 7. Now again, if you can't reach it, bass note, shells. Okay? So on and so forth. These are going to create 2-hand voicings, because what you're going to start to do is add on however you want to the top portion of this or between these shells here. But you need this setup first. And the way this works is that in solo piano, or when you start to get to a very advanced level when you're just creating voicings, you always start with this setup, with any of those 3 setups that I just taught you. Here's setup 1, 1, 7, 3. Now I can create around this. So I've chosen notes to add to the setup. I chose 9, 11, 5, and 7. So I'm randomly creating these shapes and voicings on the spot. And now I'm no longer thinking about notes really. Like John said, I'm kind of thinking about shapes. Here's a setup that I taught you, 1, 10, 7. Now I'm going to add random notes here. Not random, but I'm going to pick colors, right? 9, sharp 11, 13. Let's add the 3 in here too. Let's add the 5 down here. In the 10 setup, down here in your left hand, to make it a richer sound, put 5 in the middle. And you can play a 5th and then jump up here to that voicing to get a thick sound. With the 5th, it's thicker. Without the 5th, it's a little thinner. Okay. Now again, the heart of two-hand voicings is going to be these setups that I've taught you. That's the heart of the two-hand voicings that you may want to play. Okay, there's a lot more to this, to the two-hand voicings, right? But that's what needs to be practiced. Does everyone understand that? Because that can be a little confusing. Like, so you want to work on these setups, 1, 7, 3. You want to work on 1, 3, and 7. And you also want to work on 1, 10, and 7. Okay, for all your minors, all your majors, all your dominants, and through your 2, 5, 1s, up and down the C major scale, up and down the D flat major scale, and then randomly as well. Always in the same practice system, right? No time, then with a metronome. Okay, always trying to increase the BPM, trying to get up to 120. So that's going to be two-hand voicings. Now, we'll get into kind of creation of two-hand voicings in a second. I just want to keep going through this. Number 8, okay, shell voicings. Now, shell voicings are going to be upper structure triads. So what I was playing before, if we go to Ghost of a Chance again, if I were to comp this with essentially kind of what I call shell voicings or upper structure triads, let me know if you guys can hear this. Oops. If I were to comp through this, it would sound like this. So on and so forth. So that's just a little demonstration. But shell voicings are where your left hand has shells, your right hand has some sort of voicing on top of the shells. So for your upper structures, you're going to want to take different types of upper structure voicings. Now, this upper structure is essentially a 5 major triad. So not much fancy stuff going on. Okay? So I have 5, 7, and then 9. So essentially we're getting the 9 out of this upper structure triad. So it's a triad on top of shells. So to learn this, right, we want to go through the same exact process. This is root position of the upper structure triad, but we don't want this big of a gap. So I'm going to do second inversion here. So second inversion of my C major triad, right? Then I'm going to go to second inversion of my F major triad. Not of my F major triad, I'm sorry, of my C major triad, but in second inversion over my F major shells, right? And then the same thing, right, for my B flat chord, same thing for my E flat chord, so on and so forth. So this will help you in a lot of different ways because these are going to be very useful when comping in a group. Or if we hit a bass note in solo piano, we can kind of do this and get these nice, beautiful cookie cutter extensions out of upper structure triads. But the deal I have with upper structure triads is, again, this is a gateway to getting into adding extensions, right? Like this is my A minor upper structure triad for my G minor 7 chord. So I'm essentially playing a 2 minor triad, right, in second inversion over the shells to the G minor 7. I'm going to voice lead this to my A flat major triad over my C shells. Okay, so upper structures, like I can't teach you all the upper structures now. They're inside of JPS, or you can find them on the internet if you're not a JPS member. But essentially, you want to learn these and practice them through the same system, okay, that I've been teaching you guys, right? Through all the steps. And this is going to allow you to add this particular tool into your comping right here into your voicings. And comp through in this area of the piano. So that's kind of a miscellaneous tool, right? And if you do want to use these for solo piano, all you're going to do is jump to the structure that you're using. So here I'm using a C major triad in second inversion over my E7. F major triad over my A7. B flat major triad, and then maybe let's do a sus. And then resolve. Those are all upper structure triads. So we're almost there. We've almost covered literally all the voicings you could possibly need in jazz piano, right? Literally all of them, okay? And I'm going to show you how to start to change the extensions now. This is going to be the last step, essentially, in the planning book, is changing extensions. So at this point, you guys still with me? I haven't heard much chat recently, so just say, yeah, you're following, or it seems overwhelming. Give me some feedback here, what's going on with you guys. Up until this point, right, we've been doing all voicings. Now what we want to do is isolate the extensions. So to isolate the extensions, what we're going to do here is we need to learn each extension individually so that we can manipulate it how we want. So for example, the 9, right? So at its core, if I were to play a C7 voicing with a 9, it would sound like this. This is a C7 with a 9, but I can play it with shells. I can add the 9, right? Dean says, sure, keep going. So here's the 9 now, okay? So anytime I want to add a 9 to a dominant chord in any type of, any type of chord, lots of note taking. Yeah, Alan's a great studious note taker. That's great. I can add the 9 now, however I want, right? And I can add it in so many different types of ways. So the 9s are like different colors, right? In painting. So we have our primary colors. And then we have like magentas or like combinations of like really subtle colors. So essentially, the 9 is a specific color, right? We need to know how to use that color when we want. Like if you're painting, not all of us are painters here. I'm not a painter, but I can imagine, you know, Renoir, Van Gogh, whoever, when they want a certain shade, they're so used to the coloring that they're going to add a specific color that they want for this particular area, right? So they want to express something and they add it in, right? Monet, whoever. So if I want a certain coloring, a certain sound, a certain ambiance, I have a relationship with extensions, meaning I know what a 13 over a minor 7 feels like to me or to other people too, just like I demonstrated the minor 6 chord. That's a very particular feeling, sound, like derivative. I don't know if this is the right word of like scenes or things in life. I always picture it like Ratatouille. Does anyone see Ratatouille? When he smells certain things, it like triggers emotions and feelings and memories. It's the same thing for extensions. I don't think many people get this. Now, a minor major chord in general does that for me. Just the sound of a minor major chord. Adding the 9 has a particular feeling as well. Similar to the minor 7, right? Excuse me, the minor 6 chord. But they're different. They're different, right? So the sharp 11 over a major 7 chord has a very distinct sound as well. Sharp 11 over a dominant chord has a very distinct sound as well. The 9s have a very distinct sound. So you get it. So each color, each extension has a very unique sound, and we need to develop a relationship with each individual extension, so we need to isolate it. So we go through the same process. It's the same process, okay? Pretty sure I'll be burning my piano this afternoon. George, just take your time. Go step by step, honestly. I know I always deliver lots of information, but it's to help you guys see the path and then really just try and nail down tiny baby steps. Like, how do you get to the top of the mountain, right? Step by step. That's the only way you can get there. You just got to go step by step, okay? So just picture your goal in mind as the top of the mountain. All you got to do is just go step by step by step. Just put one foot in front of the other. That's all you can do. That's all we can do, right? Just put one foot in front of the other and keep going. So here's our 9s. okay, for major sevens. I'm going to use the same process. Alan's used to this. I know he was doing a lot of this before. So I'm isolating my 9. I'm isolating it to hear the sound, to hear the voicing. Now, not that I would use this voicing that much, but I want to really isolate the note in my right hand because my right hand is where I'm going to be placing extensions the most. That's very, very important. Trent, what's up? And enjoy the view along the way. Exactly. Enjoy the view. Definitely enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey along the way. My right hand is where I'm going to be placing extensions the most. That's why it's so important for our right hand to add extensions. Now, I shouldn't say that entirely because when we solo and stuff, let's say I want to change my voicing in my left hand. I'm going to get to that in just a second. I do want to be able to know where my extensions are so I can kind of hit different types of extensions. You know, maybe this for a C7 chord. Now, check this out. This is a 5-note voicing. Right? There's literally no other things I can do to this voicing besides trying to play 2 notes with my thumb to get a 6-note voicing, which is very hard to do in a lot of different ways, right? I wouldn't normally do this, but if you want to go full creation, this could be a way you could have 6-note voicings. But, you know, at the core of this, your 5-note voicing, because you're using all fingers, is going to be the thickest single left-hand voicing you can use, right? And I know where my 9 is. I know where my shells are. So essentially, I can add a 9 onto my left-hand voicing whenever I feel like it, because I know where it is on the piano for a C7 chord. Same for an F7 chord. I know my 9 is a G, right? Because I've isolated it. I've practiced my 9. Okay, so you want to get to a point where you know your extension so well that I can say, okay, what's the sharp 11 of an F sharp 7 chord, right? And then you tell me what it is, right? C. And to pick these out, the extensions, right, they have anchors as well. So if you don't really know where your sharp 11 is, you can think about this in a very easy way. It's just a half step down from your 5th, right? Where's your 9? It's a whole step up from your root or a whole step down from your 3rd. Where's your flat 9? It's a whole step up from the root. Where's your 13? It's a whole step down from your flat 7 or half step down from your flat 7, whole step down from your 7. Okay? All right. So you get it. Isolating extensions is really important. You want to practice all your extensions. Practice with root position chords first, right? Isolate your 13s. Okay, isolate your flat 13s. So on and so forth. Your sharp 9s. Your sharp 9s are just the minor 3rd, clashing with the regular 3rd, which creates a beautiful sound, right? That's all sharp 9 is. And the more you can kind of anchor that down in your mind, the easier it is going to be for you to pick it out. Like anytime you need a sharp 9, just throw the minor 3rd down with your regular 3rd. That's going to create a sharp 9 sound, right? Okay, so how do we use these extensions now? I'm going to get into very advanced voicings. It's 11:01. But in our setups now, that we've worked on a lot of different types of voicings. What we can start to do is change our extensions. In your rootless voicings, you can start to manipulate your chord to make it sound however you want. So I can add in a 13 here if I want. So now I've added in a 13 and I have the 9 on top. I can change the 9 to a root on top and add in a 13. Right? I can remove my 9. I can add in 11 if I want. As long as you have the shells in there to dictate the quality of the chord, you can create whatever voicing you want. Right? Now, let's say I want to manipulate my dominant chord voicing. I can change my 9 to a sharp 9. I can change my 13 to a flat 13. I can manipulate the colors now, the extensions, because I know where they are to play those voicings, right? And so for each one of these manipulations, you really want to get a hold on each one of those voicings too, right? So if you like a particular sound, let's say you like this voicing here. This is a gorgeous voicing I love. I love this voicing as well. I love putting the E flat on top if you can reach it. It is an odd shape for your hand, but this whole step and half step cluster is really cool. Right? This is a really cool cluster. 7, 9, 3, 11. I love adding the root in here. 7, 1, 9, 3, 11. These are shapes and voicings that I'm familiar with because I've worked on them and practiced them, right? Just through the keys or in different ways. Really cool shapes. And it's all from manipulation of the extensions. Now, each one of these voicings, you're going to want to isolate and practice, right? If you really want to hold on to it so that you can grab it in an instance, right? To play, like let's say I was soloing over a 2-5-1 and I want to grab this voicing, you know, for my voicing. Such a gorgeous sound. Or this, right? Now these are 5-note voicings here. Like I said, I literally can't add any other notes, usually except for my thumb. So I could add in a root here, 6-note voicing. Okay. Breaking boundaries, right? How do you play a 6-note voicing on the piano with one hand? Boom. Your thumb plays 2 notes. Gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. So if you want to hold on to these voicings, you're going to want to isolate them and just use the practice system that I taught you, right? Now, a couple more points. 2 hand voicings. Take your setups, 1, 7, 3. Then add in any chord tones or extensions you want to create whatever voicing you want. Take your setup that you've worked on through the keys and add in any chord tones or extensions that you want. Let's add the 9 here. Let's add the root here. Let's add the 11. Let's add the 5. It's pretty. I like that. It's a little high for me, but that's okay. Here's an A minor 7. Let's add the 5. Let's add the 13, the 9, the root and the 9. Right? Now, a lot of times in solo piano, you'll have a melody note. Let's say the melody is the B. You'll have a chord like A minor 7. So you have a melody note with an A minor 7 chord. You're going to play your 2-hand voicing setup first. These are the bare bones, and then you're going to add in anything you want to create your shape or your chord. So let's add in the 11, the 13, and the root. Gorgeous. I love this. I love this voicing. You can even add a bass note in at the bottom to kind of just create more of a lush sound, or a 5th. Really pretty. You can roll it up top, right? That's going to be for your 2-hand setup. Now check it out. Let's say we have this 2-hand setup for a dominant chord. 1, 5, 10, 7. We have 4 fingers to add in colors and notes however we want. Let's add the sharp 9 in. Let's add the sharp 11 in. Let's add the 5 in. Let's add the 13 in. Woo! Gorgeous. Love this. Woo! I gotta play this voicing more. Really good outro to a tune, right? I can hear a tune ending like this. Fantastic voicing. Like, I rarely ever play that voicing. I just created it on the spot. No, what did I play? I want to save this, so I need to practice this setup and work through it in the same way that I've taught you guys. Like, I rarely play that voicing, right? But I've created it, and there's thousands of combinations. Like, I'll never be able to teach you all the different types of combinations. You can just I'm teaching you how to fish. Like, you can create your own voicings however you want, write them down and save them, make your own arrangements, right? For all the tunes that you're playing on. It's fantastic. Your shell voicings, you can always just play shells and add on anything you want with your right hand, anything, all right? So if you want to play a G7, like a rootless shell voicing, play your shells, add any extensions and chord tones you want onto this. Nothing will sound bad. It's all subjective, whatever you want to sound, you know? So I'm going to choose the flat 13. I'm going to choose the flat 9. I'm going to double the 3rd. I'm going to add the sharp 11, and I'm going to play the natural 13. That's cool, right? Some of you may not like that. I like it. Let's change the natural 13 to a 5. Now, there's traditional rules, like generally, if you have the sharp 11, like adding this half step on top, it's quite a rub, you know? It may take some ear training to get used to this. Right? I like it. You may be like, ooh, that doesn't sound good, right? But you can start to create however you want. If just take your shells, you can create a simple voicing as this. G13 chord, right? Shells in the 13, G9 chord, G flat 13. All you need is the shells, right? And then any extension possible, okay? So, voicings are not infinite. They're not infinite. Do you know why? Because there's 88 keys on the piano. We have 10 fingers, 2 thumbs that can play 2 notes each. So you will run out of ideas of voicings eventually. Eventually. And what I've given you guys is really an entirety of planning for all the voicings that you could possibly need in jazz, right? And the systems and setups to get yourself there. But you'll come up with your own voicings, right? And eventually, after you start to see voicings like shapes, like you need a shells, you need the shells in there somehow kind of to dictate the quality of the chord. But after that, it's up to you. You're just kind of thinking shapes or colors. Do I want the 13? Do I want the 9, the sharp 11s in there to create your imagery, right? The way you use all of this information, because it is recorded, go back to any of the steps that I've gone through. So if we're looking at the book, Triads, 7th chords, all inversions for all triads, all 7th chords, inversions, voice leading of all 3 of those, right? All your triads, all your 7th chords, your 2-5-1s, so on, so etc. Your rootless voicings, obviously, your isolated rootless voicings, your 2-hand voicing setups, your shell voicings, your upper structure triads, and then changing extensions and isolating extensions. Number 9 is very, very, very advanced. Very advanced, right? And that's okay. And don't feel free to play around with that as well. But make sure to build your tower. Build your building from the bottom up, with a foundation. Because you can't just throw some of these advanced extensions in on the spot spontaneously in tunes without building up your foundation. You have to kind of build your foundation, okay? Just like learning to ride a horse, right? George would probably never throw me on a horse without teaching me some fundamentals, because what would happen? I'd probably get thrown off, or it would take off. I wouldn't know how to stop it, right? Scary thought. Same with doctors, right? Surgeons. Think about all the things. Like, sure, they want to get into all this different types of medicine and get their hands on and get dirty, right? Not in that kind of sense. Like, hopefully no one's just thrown into the operating room, but they have to go through training and education, build their foundation. It's the same with this stuff. Like, to become a pro in something, it takes a long time. But like Trent said, just enjoy the journey. William says, where in the courses in the shells in the left and in the upper triads in the right? Where in the... Okay, so the upper structure triads in the main course curriculum. And there is a mini course on that as well called Upper Structure Triads something, I think. And so you can find it in the mini course. You can also find it in the main course curriculum. And I give you all the upper structure triads you could possibly want. Like lots of upper structure triads for you guys to practice. And I believe it's in stage 4, William. So, yeah, I'm almost positive it's stage 4, stage 5. Pretty sure it's stage 4. So you can also search in the search bar, guys. Anytime you need something in Jazz Piano School, you just type it in the search bar, and it usually will come up there. Click See All, too, in the bottom right, and you can search for any of this stuff. Step 8. Oh, okay. I'll have you team roping. Awesome, George. Sounds good. That's great. Yeah, step 8 in the planning book. So the planning book is, if you want to get it, go to jazzpianoschool.com /2023 planning book. So this is kind of just like a summarized planning book for everyone to look through a voicing plan, when I release my voicing specialty course next year, it'll be very similar to this, but like more meticulous, more nuanced, more surgical, going through all these different steps. But essentially, this is like a planning guide for 2023, so you can kind of help yourself determine where you're at with your voicings, what you need, and be honest with yourself. Do you know your isolated dominant seventh rootless voicing structure 1? No? Okay, practice it. Right? Do you know your root position minor major 7 chords? No? Okay, practice those. Right? Wherever you're at, just be honest with yourself. Please, like the best thing you can do to help yourself grow faster in this craft, in anything in life, in anything, is to push your ego aside, push your desire to like want to be better, or like, and just say, okay, I don't know these. I need to work on this, right? For anything in life, I need to work on things that I don't know. Just like at the gym or in life or anything you're trying to accomplish, right? You need to always work on the things that you don't know rather than working on the things that you do know. And that's going to help you make progress. Like, it's going to 10x your progress. The more you can do that, you'll instantly 10x your progress. Okay? And I know it stinks because we never want to work on, as humans, I don't either. We never want to work on the stuff we don't know because it's annoying and it's slow and it's painful, right? Even for me, okay? It's always painful, but the more we can just sit down and work diligently on the things we don't know, you're going to make so much progress in 2023, so fast. I promise you. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Don't forget to go to jazzpianoschool.com to check out all of our free, amazing education, all of the free podcast blogs. We do have a membership if you're looking to take a next step forward with us, get access to over 1,000 different jazz piano videos, playbooks, mini courses, a main course curriculum, success path, and so much more. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at support@jazzpianoschool.com. I hope you have a wonderful day, and as always, happy practicing.